Yes! Yes! Holy crap. This pig.
So what's up, guys? I'm Jeremy Taylor. My son and I started Speak Gear a couple years ago, and we make hunting, fishing, outdoor gear review type videos on YouTube. We also have a website where we sell merch. We make hats, t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, all sorts of different stuff like that. The idea is speak whatever it is that your passion is. So if you speak perch like I do, if you speak elk like Bob does, speak ducks, whatever it is, we have all that type of gear on our website, so you guys could check us out online. How many of you have ever watched any of our videos? How many of you are a subscriber? What? How many of you don't know how to subscribe to things because you're too old? Oh boy. Okay, so if someone can name their favorite video, you get a free hat here.
That one right there.
What is it?
The one Logan dropped.
No, this young man right by you. What's your favorite video? Grayling on Rogers? Yeah. Okay, what's your favorite color? Blue, gray, or black? Okay, come up and get it. I can't walk that far. Okay, so that was our grayling video on Rogers. That was one of my fun ones too. So, why are we here talking about perch? Perch are super popular fish to catch. There's just a lot of them in the lakes. They're generally easy to catch perch if you want to catch perch. Plus, there's a lot of them. So you're catching fish. You're not just catching one fish out of in a full day of fishing. Sometimes you target one species and you just catch one or just a couple. There's a lot of fish to catch. Plus, they taste delicious. If you like eating fish, perch is my favorite eating fish of all. Plus, they're really fun for kids. So if you've got kids around to take fishing, perch are a great way to get them hooked on fishing. But my favorite thing about perch fishing is finding the big ones. And I consider a jumbo perch anything 3/4 of a pound or bigger. That's what we call a jumbo, at least in my ice shack. But sometimes you'll catch the real big ones. And I remember the first time I caught a pounder, that was kind of like the bar, catching a pound perch. And I couldn't believe how big that fish was. It was just so big. I've just never seen anything like that. And I'm used to catching these 8 to 10 inch perch. And then you catch a pounder and it's just like, oh man. So I got addicted to that. I couldn't stop catching big perch. And so then I found out there's tournaments with other guys that are all trying to catch the biggest perch in a lake. And I'm like, yeah, I like competition and I like to catch big perch. So it's a perfect union between the two of us. So here's a picture of my fishing partner and I down in Idaho at a tournament. Down there you catch 6 fish a day is what you turn in your bucket, and these are our 4 biggest out of that one day. So there's a couple that are two pounders, and then a couple that are right under that. We didn't even win. We took 4th. So we'll talk about that lake some, but that's really fueled me. I really love those giant perch. So I'm going to talk to you about what I think big perch do, and all perch do, but big perch in particular. We'll just talk about the behavior of perch. Perch can live in a wide range of water. I've caught them in 2 feet. I've caught them all the way down to 50 feet plus. Jim probably sees them super deep when he's fishing for salmon, but they're in a wide range. They're also different types of lakes around here have, you know, different depths and stuff. So they're just in a wide range of water depths. Also, where in the water they live, they really like those flat bottoms, dirt flat bottoms. They like to dig around in there. There's worms, bloodworms and stuff like that. They really like those areas. Where they love weed structure too, because there's a place to hide if you're a perch, and also a place to find stuff that's hiding if you're a perch. You can chew on it. So they like the bugs and the minnows and things like that. One other thing I really like about perch is that they're active all year long. Some fish slow down certain times of the year. Perch are really pretty much catchable all year. My favorite time of year to catch them is this, what we used to call ice, but it's now water again. First ice to the pre-spawn time. And the reason I like that time is because they're growing. They're the biggest they're gonna be in that whole year, is that right up to the spawn. So the biggest perch are usually winter perch. And then I find that, you know, the spawn is a really magical time to catch fish too, but right after they spawn, they kind of disappear off of my radar. I have a hard time finding perch right after they're spawned. So there's like a 2 to 4 week period that I said that they're active all year, but there's a 2 to 4 week window that I have a hard time finding them, and that's right after the spawn. But then summer happens, all their babies that they made become bait, and they love to eat their own babies, and there's a lot of them out there. So that's some of the funnest perch fishing I experience is the summer perch, and it's like fishing for bass maul. So I use an ultralight rod, and they're just hungry and fun to catch, but they don't have any weight because they just lost it all, really. So now it's the rebuilding process, re-add those eggs and all that. Fall's also an awesome time to catch them, but I'm usually hunting, so I don't catch fish during dark hours. It's always first light to late afternoon is really when I catch perch. Sometimes you'll catch them in the dark, but very rarely. I think it's mostly during daylight hours. So I've had people tell me that they'll catch them during salmon at night and stuff like that, but they're definitely not super active. I really like that first light time period, but I've also caught some of my biggest perch 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. As far as what they're eating, every lake is different depending on whatever the lake has to offer for food. Some lakes are full of food. Like Smith Lake, for example, is just chock full of bugs and vertebrates, whatever. So there's a lot of that type of stuff to eat. Other lakes don't have much for food, and so the fish are super hungry. Smith Lake, they just look at your lure and like, I already ate. They're not really hungry all the time. So every lake is a little bit different on what type of food sources they have, but I found that the main food source that a big jumbo perch will eat is a minnow. Like I mentioned earlier, they love to eat minnows. So here's a little video, show you what I'm talking about.
So Lake Cascade's the only place you'll see something like this, where the bait is eating the bait. Pretty crazy. Aggressive fish.
So I caught that little perch on a really big spoon with a big treble hook, and he had that perch hanging out of its mouth, and he was still trying to eat. But even the little ones like to eat the minnows, if that's a food source. Also, crawdads, invertebrates, bloodworms. Scuds are what some people call freshwater shrimp. And then another thing that I'm finding is snails in the bellies of some of these big ones. Now, if you're looking for big perch, every lake has its own big perch. So like you can't go to any lake and catch 2+ pound perch just because they're not there. Not in every lake. Each lake has its maximum size potential, I think. You might catch a random giant in that lake, but the average, there's not a lot of big perch in this lake. That's like a pound perch is big in this lake, and in this lake 2.5 pounds is big perch. So hope you understand what I'm trying to say, that there's a size maximum potential in every lake. So if you're looking for the big ones, you need to fish where the big ones are. If you want to catch the biggest perch, you got to fish in the biggest perch lakes. I kind of mentioned this a little bit, but when you're in those lakes, you want to look for those flat basins, weeds, and then also that transition zone between the weeds and those basins can be one of the best spots. So when you're looking for perch on a lake, especially a new lake or a really big lake, I like to use my mapping ahead of time. Like I do a lot of my scouting from home, and I can sit on the computer and I can use the tools like Google Earth, which is free to everybody, free satellite imaging, Onyx, Garmin Navionics. Those are all the apps I like to use, and I can sit at home and break a lake down on my computer screen in my warm house. And then I can make waypoints on those mapping things, and then I take that map out to the lake, and I can go right to those spots and try those spots. So here's a picture. This is Onyx, and this is Lake Cascade down in Idaho. So if I was looking at this map, this satellite image, I would notice, I don't know if you can see you can't see that. Here's Sugarloaf Island, real popular. I know there's a river channel going through here and stuff, but I'm looking for those spots that might hold perch, especially perch that are pushing bait, looking to eat. And so I start looking around, I see, oh man, I can see this little point here, and that point goes out into the lake a little bit. I'm gonna drop a pin right here on my map, and then on my phone I have that, and I can go right to that spot and try that spot out on the lake. Especially if you have a certain pattern that seems to be working, then you can go back and look at your map like this, find spots that are similar, make those marks, and then go try all those spots. All right, so the next thing is electronics. When I say electronics, I mean these are the types of electronics that I use. I use cameras, underwater cameras in some situations. I use that camera right there, actually. It's a Vexillar. I don't remember what it's called. It's awesome though. I use a flasher, which is like a Vexillar or a Markham. I'm currently running the FL30. I use forward-facing sonar, which can be live scope or mega live or whatever it is. And then the other electronic that I like to use is a GPS, good old-fashioned GPS. So if you're not using electronics, you're really handicapping yourself. There's so much to learn from electronics, and I'm sure you've all been in this situation. You've been sitting out on the ice. There's Jim Hoover sitting right there. He's catching fish like crazy, and you're not catching anything. And you're doing what he's doing. You watched his seminar. You're doing his stuff, his lures, his rods, everything. You're still not catching anything. Why is it? Why is it that I'm not catching anything? Electronics will show you. If you don't know what's going on down there with your hook or your lure or whatever, Electronics will show you what you're missing out on. There's a lot of things that you can learn from electronics. First of all, are there even fish under me? Am I totally wasting my time, or are there fish down there? Are they even nearby? I can look with the live scope, I can look around in a circle and find out if there are fish nearby. I can also see on my electronics, Vexilar and live scope, with the size of the fish. So if I'm trying to target a specific size, I can actually see the size on my electronics. My Vexilar square is bigger for bigger fish and so forth. I can see if they're trying to bite or biting, or if they're even interested in what I'm doing. Sometimes you can see the fish just kind of swim up and then they just kind of drift off, and they're not interested, so I got to make some sort of change, or I got to go somewhere else where there are interested fish. And this is probably the reason Jim's catching fish and I'm not. Where's my bait in relation to the fish? Am I below the fish? Am I down in, maybe I'm in a weed clump or something like that, and I never even knew it was there, and I'm in the middle of that, and Jim's not. He's right off of it and he's catching fish. So that could be why it is. There's so much more. I can find weed edges. I can see how they like my jigging cadence. So much information I can gather from electronics. And there's a lot of debate over use of forward-facing sonar and stuff like that right now, and it's a bunch of malarkey. But electronics do not catch fish. So fishermen catch the fish. Electronics just help you as a tool to understand what's going on down there. So I think you should just try to use it as a tool. Okay. Some of you might have watched my video, so they might know the answers to this, but there's 3 pieces of fishing gear that changed my life. And the first one is electronics, but it's not the forward-facing sonar, it's the Vexilar. The Vexilar is my favorite electronics tool because it's so light and portable. And my style of fishing is run and gun. I like to move. Jim will stay in one spot all day and outfish me sometimes, but I can't sit still for very long, so I need to move. So a Vexilar is light and portable, really easy to put it in my sled or in my machine or whatever, and then it's lightweight, plus I'm able to gather a lot of information from it. Second thing that changed my ice fishing life forever is the power auger. How many of you are still using a hand auger? So here's what I did. I did that. I found out about the gas augers. I switched to a gas auger. They were life-changing because I could drill so many more holes, but I still had problems. I had gas. I had sometimes they won't work, and it's the worst time ever, like it's a tournament or something. It's too cold, hard to start them, the spark plug's fouled, whatever. Or you forget your gas. I think Russ saved my bacon one time at a tournament because I didn't have enough gas for my auger, and he had some, but it was just so many problems. Then I saw people using these drills with these augers, and they were just carrying these drills out there, and I was like, but I tried it, and it is so amazing, so amazing. They're lightweight. All I have to worry about is a button working and making sure I have batteries, and I'd bring 2 or 3 batteries with me, and I can drill a lot of holes. I drill 30 to 50 holes a day easy when I go fishing, when I'm moving around looking for fish. So what you could do, if you just have a hand auger, they do have adapters. You can buy just the adapter and put that in there and hook a drill to it. So I did do that for a while. But then I found out they have lighter weight stuff, and so anyways, those 2 things have been game changers for me. There's one more thing. I'll show you this real quick. This is how much of a game changer the auger is. It used to take me several minutes to drill an ice hole. And if you have 3 boys and they all want to fish and then they all want to change holes, you're going to spend your whole time drilling holes. Watch this. This is how fast a power auger can drill holes. Zero energy spent. 3 holes drilled. The kids are fishing. They're happy. So I'll probably sit there for 10 minutes and I'll move and I'm going to drill more holes. But 14 seconds, 6 inches of ice, 3 holes. That's pretty amazing. I didn't have to pull a cord. Nothing. Okay, so there's one other thing that I feel is a game changer, but it's worth a hat. You gotta guess it to win a hat here. It's something about warmth and comfort. Anyone? No.
Heated insoles.
Close.
Dry boots.
Who said that? Yeah, muck boots. You want blue or gray? Muck boots changed my life. Those things, the Arctic version of muck boots, are so warm, and so much of the time you're in slush ice fishing that you have to have a boot that's waterproof and warm. So I was ice fishing one time, walking out on the ice, just got there, a foot fell through an ice pocket, tore the tip of my sorels wide open, my boot filled with slush. It's like, what am I gonna do now? I got a full day of fishing ahead of me, or I can go home. And so I tried to tough it out for a little bit. No, I'm going home. So those things are so warm and so waterproof. I'm standing in slush a lot of the season, and they're just amazing. So I definitely recommend checking out the muck boots and there's other versions, other companies, but make sure they're waterproof all the way up and they're warm. So some of my tackle that I use, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but your rod obviously depends on the type of fishing and the style of fishing that you do. I have a certain style that I like, and I use one of the cheapest rods available to do it. I use a medium action ugly stick. I also really love the Perch assault rods that we're giving away. Those are a really good, affordable rod, and especially if you want a bunch of rods like I do. I've always got a bunch of different things set up. For dead sticking, I use what's called a schoolie. It's a real sensitive tip, and if you don't know what dead sticking is, that just means you're setting your rod down on a bucket or in a holder or something like that. Because the fish are super not wanting to bite, and so then they'll come up and just sniff it, and they might suck it into their mouth, and you don't even know that it's in there. And so you have to have that real sensitive tip to see that bite even happen. When I go out to Lake Cascade in Idaho, I use a 36-inch medium light rod. It's just because those fish are so much bigger out there. You need a bigger rod for that. For reels, I just use the 10 to 20 size reels. They usually cost about $30 to $50 a piece. Nothing fancy. I've always been a proponent of buying my rods and my reels separate, not buying combos for open water, but in ice fishing you can get away with it because the reel's probably not the most important thing as long as it functions in the cold. And as long as it has a couple features, I really like the anti-reverse on my reel to work. So if I'm trying to set a specific height, it doesn't move back down after I set it. The other thing I like to do is buy the same reels and have all the same reels, because I sometimes break stuff, and that way I have parts. I also can change a spool from one reel to another. If I've got different line on this one, I can just change it over real easy. So that's what I got. I got about 4 to 6 rods that I use all season, and they all have the same reel on them. Just don't tell my wife. For line, I run 4-pound fluoro for all my perch fishing. Some people will use a little bit lighter, like 2 to 3 pound. I like 4, just personal preference. If we're getting down deeper, I like to use a swivel. It's really tiny swivel down below, with like a 2 to 4 foot leader below it. What happens in the deeper water is when you're jigging like I jig, your lure is just spinning, and then that really starts to line twist. And then if you stop and you're dead stick and you don't even realize it, but your lure is just going down there under the water. So a little tiny swivel will alleviate that. And a lot of times perch will come up and bump that swivel. They'll be looking at it like it's a bug or something, but that's one of the things that I've figured out for myself. Like Jim mentioned in his talk, deeper you want to use braid. I use a small 4-pound braid for perch with a leader and a swivel down below it, a fluoro leader down below. And then when I head over to Lake Cascade in Idaho, I use 6-pound fluoro again, and same kind of setup if it's deeper water.
Do you use the snap swivel at all, attaching to the lures, or are you just
No,
working at hand swivel?
I tie direct. I try to have as simple as possible and as lifelike as possible. I don't want to have any metal on there that I don't need. So as far as what I use for the lure, I like to try to match whatever the hatch is. Whatever it is that they're feeding on in that lake is what I'm trying to duplicate. Sometimes though, they won't eat that because they have so much of it. It's like, oh, another scud. I don't want that. So I'll do some sort of lure that they've never seen before, or color that they've never seen before, just to try something else. Sometimes that works. But I like all my baits to seem as lifelike as possible. Probably most of the time I'm going with a perch pattern, perch colors, perch patterns, or some sort of plastic that looks like a bug, and those kind of colors, browns, greens, stuff like that. I also really love the horizontal jigs over the vertical jigs, because I feel like perch come in from the side, and they do like to feed up, but I don't think they love to feed straight up and down. So I really think I hook more fish with a horizontal style jig than a vertical jig. Of course, I usually always put something on my hook, like some sort of bait, maggots or waxworms. Sometimes I don't. And the reason for that would be speed. I think you have to keep perch interested. Sometimes perch, they're ADD, and they'll wander off real easily if they're not interested. So to keep them interested, you have to have something in front of them as much as you can. So you're catching a fish, bring it up, there's nothing in front of those fish down there. They're like, well, swim over here maybe. So the quicker you can get stuff down, the better. And so that's why sometimes I'll go baitless. And it only works though if the fish are biting. If they're really aggressive, you can go baitless. That's just one way to do it. Another thing I'll do is I like a single hook versus a treble hook for that same reason. A single hook, it's a lot easier to get out of a fish's mouth than a treble hook is, especially if they've got themselves hooked 2 or 3 spots and then maybe on the side or whatever. So single hook is my preference. Now I will use a treble hook when I'm having trouble catching the fish. Like last year I was fishing in like about 4 feet of water, and there was a really thick ice base. And so I was setting the hook on these fish, and the fish were bumping off on the ice, and I was losing them. I lost probably 4 to 6 nice fish all that way, and I realized I need to change what I'm hooking onto them with. So I switched to a treble hook, and I didn't lose any more fish that day. So it just holds on a little bit more. So when you can't afford to lose, fish, you might want to go with a treble. Might kill some fish, but sometimes you have to. So what types of jigs? I always err on the side of tungsten. Tungsten is heavier, and again, it's going to get me back down faster to keep in front of those fish and keep them interested. As far as what type of plastics I use, I like anything bug-like. Bootjack Baits, which is Chansey's company, Pete's Tackle, Clam, they all make really good plastics that have a lot of jiggly stuff that look like bugs. Those are what I usually pick. Another thing that I would recommend is that when you pick a jig, that you would choose long shank hooks, not the short hooks. Longer shank is going to give you room on the hook for your plastic, and also it's going to give you more room to actually catch the fish, because that's what the point of a hook is, to catch the fish. So if there's a really tiny gap between the head of the jig and the hook itself, you're a lot less likely to hook a fish. So a little bit longer shank is going to give you a lot more room to catch those fish. So for me, it's a lot of these little tiny things, and you put all these little tiny things together and it makes a difference. So when I fish down at Cascade though, I'm using a lot different setup. I'm using large spoons, lipless crankbaits. I'll show you a video here in a second with 2-inch lipless crankbait. That's bigger than some of the perch I catch in some of these lakes around here. And again, sometimes I don't even need to use bait down there. And like I mentioned, perch colors, natural colors. Sometimes chartreuse is a pretty good color to try too if you're trying something different that the perch haven't seen. Fishing with a pretty big lure. It's a lipless crankbait. It's 2 o'clock, and I'm just banging this thing down on the bottom, or not on the bottom, but down. Ooh, there's one right there. Big one. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just shaking that thing down. They love the fall. Come on. Stay away from the camera. I don't want you to get tangled up in that. Oh, you're coming up backwards, huh? Yeah. What a big one. Ouch. Jeez. Turbo hooks are free. Almost got me. All right, look at this guy. He's like 1.5 pounds. Another reason I don't like treble hooks is they usually end up in me, because they're so sharp and nasty. Okay, so if you've got fish you're trying to get fish to bite, here's some things that I do. First of all, never fish below perch. It's all caps. Perch bite up. They look up, they hunt up. I've had fish before that I dropped it below them and they turned and left because I just interested them with just that small movement. Keep above the perch. In fact, I've had perch come up 12 feet from the bottom after a lure. When they're fired up, they'll come way up. And that's a way to actually get them to come up, or to get fired up, is to get it higher and higher, and to also create competition between other fish. I do different jigging cadences. I do a constant twitch. I do big lifts and falls. That fish you saw me catch right there, I was actually just putting my lure back in the water after showing it to the camera, and it was falling. They love the fall. And then sometimes you have to do dead stick, like I mentioned, just because they're just being picky. Another thing that I've done too is if the fish are picky, you can downsize your jig to a smaller size. Then that might trigger them to bite it because they're just being lazy. Smith Lake is what I'm thinking about in this instance. But sometimes you've got so many fish trying to bite, you have to upsize. So if you want to catch the big ones, put a bigger lure on. The little ones can't bite it. Just the big ones can. And that'll help you weed through and keep your presentation down in front of those fish. And then using your electronics, you can really read what's going on down there. If they're liking what you're giving them, they like the presentation. If they don't, where you're at above them, below them, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So now we're moving on to the advanced stuff, not just the basic stuff. Staying mobile is so important. Here's what I see sometimes. I go out to the lake and I see a bunch of guys all in one spot, and I see other people heading that way. And so I figure, well, they're either catching a bunch of fish or they're all a bunch of lemmings, because they're all going to the exact same spot that everybody else is. So I kind of want to go over there and just see if people are catching fish or not. But why are they all there? I don't know. It's because someone else was there ahead of them, and it looks like it must be the spot or something. So make sure you don't set up a big village. Get all your lawn chairs and your fire and your pop-ups and everything all in the first spot that you go to. Okay, be able to stay mobile, because being mobile, if there's no fish there, you gotta move. You gotta move. If you want to catch fish, if you're just there for the social, you can stay there. But I like to try to keep everything in my sled or on my machine, and just fish from that and just be able to move quickly. It's a big deal to be able to be mobile. Another thing that I like to do, I see this too. Someone will go out and they'll drill like 4, 5, 6 holes all nearby. I was like, you're just wasting battery juice is what you're wasting here, because what's the difference between that hole and that hole? There's nothing, no difference. I think you can drill holes 30 yards apart. 30 yards apart, because I think a fish can see 12 yards or 15 yards. I think they can see that far. So if I drill a hole 30, I've got fish 15 yards on all sides of me that can see me. And I can go another 30 yards from that point, drill another hole, and I'm touching my 15-yard mark. So I'm covering 60 yards in 2 holes, basically, is what I have in my mind. And I might have to stay there for 5 to 10 minutes to bring them that 15 yards or whatever, but I think they can see that far. So don't waste your time drilling a lot of holes close to each other. I think you can drill your holes a little further apart. And I've been talking about this too. Fish have fins. They move. And if you're not keeping them where you're at, where you're fishing, they're going to leave and go somewhere else. So you have to keep them interested. A couple different ways to do it. Like I mentioned, getting your hooks back down quickly. Another idea is have multiple fishermen in one spot. Like if you've got a partner and you're all fishing in that same area, you can really keep the fish interested, because you got lures down in front of their face all the time. And then, like I mentioned too, getting the fish to come up. If you can get the fish to come up 4 to 6 feet or higher, they're going to stay in that area because they're interested in what's going on. They get excited, and then multiples come and they get each other excited, and there's competition, and that's really what you're after. Did I mention move? Don't sit in one spot and not catch fish for too long. Also, they're gonna move during the day, so you might be catching fish for a while and then all of a sudden it goes dead. They obviously moved somewhere. So which direction? They either moved side to side somewhere in the same depth range, or they moved deeper, or they moved shallower. So you just need to try some of those different depths, and you might run into where they are. Because I think they'll go from the deep, they'll go in the other side. I'm gonna go feed in shallow, and then they'll come back out. They move all around. So just be willing to try some of those different depths. Okay, I'm in a new spot. I've never been here. I know from Google Earth that there is a weed line over here somewhere. I'm gonna drill one hole right here. I'm gonna use my live scope and I'm gonna find that weed edge. So there's obviously those thicker weeds. As I move this handle, they disappear over here. They start in over there, but they're really thick, about 30 feet out. And as I go this direction, they're a little bit closer, so that tells me the weed edge kind of angles this direction. But I know that if I head this direction and I go about 23 feet, I'm gonna be right at the edge of those weeds. Watch the precision. You're gonna see on the screen where when I drill, you're gonna see that spot on the screen and you're gonna know that you're in the exact spot. So I need to go about 23 or 24 feet in this direction. That's gonna be 8 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure I'm lined up with my handle. Drill the hole. Now watch and see if I hit the spot or not. I think I did. So I'm going to set up right there, and then I'm going to make another hole further down the weed line. So that's pretty precise. That's a live scope in action. I can find an exact edge of a weed line. In the old days, I would have to drill, look down there with a camera, or look down with my eyes, or whatever. Nope, drill. Just keep looking. Now I can drill one hole, boom, there's the weed edge, boom, 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 steps, drill the hole. I know it goes this way. I can go over here, drill some more holes. I'm on the weed edge right away. Okay, and what did I say before I got to that area? I used my electronics, I used my mapping ahead of time. I looked on Google Earth, I saw, oh, there's a weed edge out here somewhere, because I could see the lily pad. So I got in the general direction ahead of time by marking it on my phone, on my Onyx. So live scope is another super advanced strategy, and it's not affordable for everybody. It's super expensive. But this time of year, they do have some pretty good deals. I saw a Black Friday sale on a Garmin Ice bundle for like $800 off or something. And a bundle, the Ice bundle is like an all-in-one package, kind of like these Vexilars. It has the battery and everything all built into it. I don't like their whole package, so I've adjusted it a little bit. I put my own pole on there, and I've put it on top of what's called a shuttle. A shuttle makes it so that I can put my live scope in my boat, on my four-wheeler, on my snowmobile. If I had a fishing kayak or whatever, I could just move it from one to the other, and I have live scope on all those places. So check out the shuttle. I use the shuttle from Summit Fishing, but there's other companies out there that make those. But if you're looking to buy one, definitely look this time of year or Black Friday time, because they do have sales on them, and they're pretty amazing. They are kind of heavy, so I do try to mount them. I don't like to lug it around because it's a little heavier, and I put a bigger battery on there. But like you saw, it's an amazing tool for finding weed edges and other structure and stuff like that. I don't fish with it all the time because it's more difficult to use all the time, and I do think it sometimes spooks fish. So there's a lot of power coming out of that transducer head. I've seen fish come close and turn, come close and turn, come close and turn. It's like they must be feeling it, because there's a lot of power in that transducer. So but I can also drill a hole and see 100 feet. That's quite a circle I can see to look for fish. So for finding fish, I really love the Live Scope. Another thing, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I think so many of us are going to familiar landmarks all the time to fish. And I see this big lake, and it's got a lot of the same stuff in other places. So I'd challenge you to try to fish away from your landmark. Maybe look at the landmark spot that you've been fishing on the mapping and say, okay, what has this spot got? And then try to find that in other spots on the lake. Another amazing tool that I started to use is called the jigging jaw jacker. The regular jaw jackers like this are amazing. What you do is you set your rod in it, you cock it down. It's basically a mouse trap for fish. This is the dead stick version. A jigging jaw jacker, though, actually jigs for you. You put this on a base and it jigs. And then when a fish bites, it sets the hook. Your rod is in there, so you grab the rod out and you can fight the fish. So it's like it's like having a fishing partner, basically. Some lakes you can have, and most of the Montana lakes you can have 2 lines. Some lakes, though, you get east of the mountains, you can have more lines. So check your regulations and make sure you're doing it right. Down in Idaho, I can have 5, so I use 4 jigging jaw jackers and then my regular rod. But a lot of times the jigging jaw jackers outfish me, and I'm mostly just running between my jaw jackers, catching fish, and my rod's laying on the ground. So they're a pretty amazing tool. And here's one in action. All right, I'm putting one right out here. Oh. Oh. That's crazy. That is crazy. That is so big. So big. They're so big though. Yeah. Jumbo. Under guessing.
Yeah.
2 pounds.
So I've seen too many big fish when I fish down in Idaho, and so I've spoiled myself, and the big ones are starting to seem small, and that's kind of messed up. But when you see a big football like that come through a hole, that's what I was doing. I was just sitting there just looking at that in that hole. Just so amazing that a perch can get that big. If you've never ever gone to a place like Lake Cascade, you have to make it a point to go there. There's other lakes in our country that have some amazing big perch. There's some Great Lakes stuff. There's Devil's Lake in Idaho or in North Dakota. But I don't think any lake compares to Lake Cascade in the numbers of big fish that are available to catch. The average size there is just huge. I consider Lake Cascade the mecca of jumbo perch. If you want to catch a big perch in your lifetime, that's gotta be on your bucket list. So I got a question for a hat. Last hat. What's the Montana perch record? Anyone know? What is it?
239.
Who said 239? 239. 239. 14.375 inches. 14.375. That's a big fish. I saw one of them that was real close. I think he got it, and then his dad beat him or something. I saw it mounted. It's a big fish. In Idaho, state record's 3.22, 16.25 inches. So this big perch on top right here is my biggest Idaho perch. It's 2.5 pounds. It's right at 16 inches long. So they don't get much longer than that. They get a little bit longer, but not much. They get bigger bellies. They just get bigger bellies. But this kind of goes back to the point I made. If you want to catch big perch, go to the big perch lakes. You're not going to catch a 2.5 pounder anywhere in this state. Maybe it's a fluke, but I've caught multiple Montana state records is the way I look at it by fishing in Idaho. This lake is just amazing. Just nothing like it. The lake itself is 16 miles long, 4.5 miles wide, so it's a really big body of water. And the average size fish in that lake is on the rise. There's a cycle there, and it's like a 7 to 8 year cycle, and I'm going to show you some data. So this is a chart from Idaho Fish and Game, and what they're doing is they're netting fish, and this is a graph of how many of a certain size they caught in their net that year. So in 2012, they caught two sizes that were the biggest size, about 9 inchers, or there's a whole bunch of 9 inchers, and there were some in the 12-inch range. But we're looking at this one here. If you see this bump, it just kind of goes this way. In 2019, the most fish that they netted, or the biggest average size that they netted, little over 14 inches was their average. Our Montana state record is 14.3, and that's the most fish that they netted there. That's amazing. And the good news is that was 2019. If you're good at math, 7 years from 2012 to 2019, so 2019 plus 7, that's this winter or next. If this is the trend, if this trend continues and it reproduces itself, I think it's gonna. So if you want to make a trip to Cascade, the next year or two is the best chance to catch some giants. I watched these guys catch some, they did perch assault over there back in that time frame, and average fish was over 2 pounds. People were catching over 2 pound average for every fish. And I fished several tournaments there in the last several years. I can't reproduce that. You know, catch maybe 1 2 pounder in your six fish bucket in a day, and that's pretty good. And a lot of them are like 1.75 pounds. But that's on the rise. So if you want to ever go there, now's the time, in the next year or two. Like I mentioned, you don't even have to use bait there because they're such aggressive fish. They're hunting, and they're just trying to eat. Basically, I'm using walleye tackle. You saw the 2-inch lipless crankbait. I also have used a 3.5-inch swim bait on a big old jig head, and they swallow that. That's what you would use for walleyes. And they swallow it. There's nothing left of it. You're gonna also need to upgrade your equipment a little bit bigger, stiffer rods are definitely necessary. The only thing bad about Lake Cascade is how hard of a place it is to just exist. It's a hard place. Weather-wise, it's 5,000 feet. It's a lot more snow. There's ski hills all around that area for a reason, because there's just a lot of snow. And the weather comes and goes like you wouldn't believe. I've gone out one morning, it's 20 below and the ice is just solid. That night, snow's a foot. The weather's changing, it's snowing and blowing. I've gone there before and everything's melted and the water is on top of the ice. I've had water all the way up to the floorboards of my four-wheeler, which I measured were 16 inches of water in like these pockets around, and then the water is just swirling down any hole that it can find in like a toilet bowl. So it's an extreme place to fish. You have to be prepared for it. So here's one of my problems I had down there. I was using a four-wheeler and I thought I'll take a shortcut across this little snow hump, get over to the ice. Should have went around it, because you go over that snow and there's so much snow, I just dropped right straight down into it. And then I got down to the mud and started spinning that up and water, and pretty soon there's mud all the way up to the gunnels. So I had to go out, I had to haul everything out, drag it all out on my sled 2 miles, wait till it froze that night because it gets so cold. I came back at like 3 in the morning with more gear, shovels, ropes, cables, everything I could find. Was able to dig myself out enough, and then I had enough rope and length that I could get out to ice and make an anchor out on the ice to pull myself out that way. So it's a hard place. So you have to be prepared for it. Like I mentioned, the snow depths are so crazy, and the amount of snow is so crazy. I don't recommend a four-wheeler anymore. I recommend a snowmobile. Okay? So if you're gonna go, they do have that kind of stuff you can rent if you don't own one. But bring a snowmobile, and you can always have trouble with those too. But it seems like I have the least amount of trouble with the snowmobile for getting around for the most of the time. I've gotten stuck before I even got to the lake before with a four-wheeler. So that's my 2 cents. If you're gonna go down there, make sure you plan to stay 3 to 4 days minimum too, because it's hard to figure out the deal. If you don't have someone guiding you or whatever, they do have an awesome guide down there I could hook you up with, but if you want to go and figure it out yourself, make sure you have enough days to find it out, figure out the system. Also, like I said, kind of related to the four-wheeler, but bring backup gear. When I got back to my truck after getting the four-wheeler out, I had an extra pair of bibs, and I got all the mud off me and threw it in the back of the truck and got some clean stuff on. And I decided to finally go out and go fishing again. It was my last day. It was in the morning, late morning, and I had to leave about 1 or whatever to get home, but got out there. I could not start my gas auger. Like, what do? You just have to go home because you don't have a backup. So now I have a backup drill. I have a backup of just about everything in my truck. I have a couple flasher units. You go that far, spend that much money, make sure you have some backup gear, because something is bound to break. Everybody that I know that's fished down there has had some problems some way. So just be prepared for it. If you're gonna go there, jawjackers have outfished me. You saw it, but I can put 4 of them out, and I'm like I said, never touching my rod. I'm just touching those, running between the jaw jackers. You have to have electronics there, especially of XLR. LiveScope is really nice, but you don't necessarily need it. But you do have to have mapping because it's such a big lake. 16 miles is a long ways. My very first time I went there and walked out. You're so limited on what you can do without some sort of a machine. And I didn't know what to look for on the maps. So I just kind of guessed and drilled a hole. Kind of like those guys that I was talking about earlier. They just kind of go out and pick one spot.